Hello and greetings, fellow StarCrafters. PGL Milncraft here from ProGamingLeagues.com with game number 2 between the red Protoss player EGHuk down here on the corner and his opponent, the yellow Protoss player Root. KiwiKaki is no longer Root, he's RGN, which I'll talk about in just a minute. The teams Root and Complexity actually merged, which those of you, I don't know if anybody follows like Husky for example, but he's currently casting Complexity's Cruncher, which I believe used to be Root Cruncher, or maybe that's not true, maybe he was always Complexity, but either way, the two teams did in fact merge, and KiwiKaki decided not to merge along with them, so he's part of a different team now. It's a somewhat smaller team. I forget the exact name of it, but anyway, yeah, he's part of a different team. That's what the RGN is, and he is not a member of Complexity, so he did leave a lot of his Root teammates behind. But you know, that's the way it goes. A lot of players change teams and stuff, so that sort of thing happens. Very smartly, he's sending his probe over there to check to make sure that there's no sorts of expansions going, or not expansions. He wants to make sure there are no proxies going on, and he's going to go slip right behind here. Wants to see the no gateways. As soon as he sees the no gateways, he'll, I'm sure, head down. Just to make sure he doesn't lose a random game, he's down a game. He wants to make sure he's playing absolutely as carefully as he can. Now, I would say that Xel'Naga, Caverns, and Protoss vs. Protoss plays very similarly in many ways to a cross-spawn Lost Shadow Temple, rather, as we just saw in the previous game. In the previous game, it also showed, by the way, the power of Blink Stalkers. Blink Stalkers are incredibly effective, but much, much better than regular Stalkers in Protoss vs. Protoss. So it's very intelligent to get those, as opposed to other things, which is why Huck basically beelined to it. He did get the Robotech first, I guess just for safety reasons, you know, against maybe a Dark Templar all-in sort of build, or just to, you know, make sure that if he had to transition to, say, Colossus or something, he would be able to do that in time. And maybe just for the Observer, which, you know, maybe it wasn't necessary, but it didn't end up hurting him too much. But anyway, he did beeline to those Blink Stalkers, and that was very effective in that game. And, you know, something that I think more Protoss players will be doing in the future, just because Blink Stalkers are so incredibly effective. And especially Huck showed not just that Blink Stalkers were so good, but he was able to force field the ramp and showed why the limitations of Immortals, because, you know, Immortals just aren't that flexible, and if they're stuck at the top of the ramp, they're not really helping your army much at all anyway. So we actually, you know, we saw a Protoss versus Protoss match where neither player decided to get a robotics build. It looks like KiwiKaki is going for the same build here, where he's going for the double or triple stalker opening, where you try to get 3 stalkers early and limit your opponent's pylons so that they can't foregate you. Remains to be seen exactly what Huck's doing. Huck is in fact getting the second gas, so he will not be foregating his opponent. Wants to tech up, similarly to last game perhaps, going for a Twilight Council and Blink Stalkers, as he knows that he does have very good micro and wants to try to utilize that as much as possible throughout this match. And, you know, as I was previously talking about, Blink Stalkers are just really, really, really good. And it is really refreshing. I don't know if this came from the warp gate timing. They added 20 seconds to it. It used to be 140 seconds, now it's 160. I don't know if that, but it's seeing neither player foregate, and which we're seeing again, neither player's foregating, is really like a nice change for Protoss vs. Protoss, which is like just dominated by foregates. And you know, that's how you really like win, is you foregate and then you micro better in a lot of situations. You know, you can even like, the pylon range was also changed. They reduced the pylon range by 1, so that you used to be able to like put them on the edge here, so they couldn't be shot by stalkers and then warp zealots in just by, you know, moving a stalker right at the bottom of the ramp. But anyway, yeah, so it's very refreshing to see players not actually going for maximum amount of foregates, and actually we see the same builds from both players, so it's going to be very interesting to see if this is going to turn out the same or if it's going to turn out differently. It's actually, like, the builds are exactly identical. Huck got the robotics facility first. He's getting the Observer as he gets the 3 gateways. I think this gateway was slightly delayed, just by like 10 seconds was the only difference between the builds, you know, which can easily account for, you know, all sorts of different minute things can change as a result of that. KiwiKaki is defending the ramp. He's got the sentry to defend the ramp. 2 gateways, got the 3rd on the way, and the robotics as well. I think his gateway was slightly faster in the other game as well, but that's the only difference. And there's Blink for Huck, so wow. So it's going to be interesting to see if KiwiKaki is going to be able to hold this. He wants to make sure not to get his army divided just like he did in the previous game. He's probably going to want to stay in the ramp just a little bit while longer. Meanwhile, Huk is putting a pylon right there, so he's probably going to be going for a little bit of blink aggression. I don't think we see any stalkers coming out for Huk right now. Oh, no, we do see one stalker. That's the first stalker that he built. He is warping in 3 additional stalkers, though. Those stalkers will probably poke around just a little bit on the top. And a part of the reason for getting the robotics is not just for safety. It's also so you can, first of all, spot the top of the ramp, and also spot your opponent's army composition. And on top of that, you can spot the top of like the side here if you want to blink your stalkers up here while his forces are away. Move in, try to take out some important forces, and just deal a lot of damage. So I don't know if KiwiKaki recognizes that he's in the same situation. His immortal will not get locked out here though. But he has to be very careful. These blink stalkers are very dangerous in anyone's hands. It actually looks like Huk is going to blink it back, so KiwiKaki does know he's in the same position as before. Almost got that sentry. That sentry is huge there, as if he's able to take that sentry out, he can safely move up the ramp without worrying about his zealots getting left behind, which is very important. And KiwiKaki is actually supply blocked and just starting his pylon now, so his forces are going to be much lower than Huk's. He does not want to keep that sentry up front, however, as Huk is trying to move around and just trying to navigate that and being able to limit his opponent. But it looks like Huk is going to move up here. Force field should be going down pretty soon for KiwiKaki, and in fact he does. And Huk, actually does lose 2 stalkers. So Huk definitely coming on the bad side of that engagement. And Blink is now coming up for KiwiKaki, but it remains to be seen if that's going to happen fast enough. How many we stalker? What are they? Let's go to the unit count here, just to make sure. We do have a stalker advantage for Huk, and his stalkers already have Blink. Looks like he is going to charge up here. Nice force fields, but it's not going to matter too much when these stalkers do have Blink. Huk is reluctant to blink up the ramp, though, as the immortals deal a lot of damage to his stalkers. And I don't think Huk has the number of stalkers right now to be able to deal with this. And in fact, Huk's stalker count is now even to KiwiKaki's. Blink is getting close to finishing. Still got a decent ways off. Huk probably has time for at least one more attack before Blink actually finishes. And looks like he is going to be marching up the ramp. The Zealot is going first, and he's going to be focus firing that Immortal, able to take that out very, very quickly. However, Blink is now on a cooldown, so he's not going to be able to utilize that very much, but he just gets on out of there. Nice job on his part, and I believe at some point he did, in fact, snipe his opponent's Observer, so KiwiKaki is Observerless. He's going to have to get another Observer before he can get an Immortal, and actually he is too short on gas to be able to get an Immortal. It's funny that the Cyber Core is unpowered there. But it's not going to matter too much, and it looks like Huk is not going to jump up the side. I guess he wants to be very careful there. Oh, he also probably recognizes that KiwiKaki does in fact have Blink on his stalkers. So are we going to see a fight here? Looks like we are. Oh, nice job. Able to take out Huk's Observer, able to return the favor there. Huk is banking a lot of minerals right now. I wonder if he is attempting to consider an expansion. Looks like he is sending a probe down, so he's probably going to think about getting an expansion pretty soon. KiwiKaki did take out Huk's pylon right there. Wants to make sure he's not getting any sort of sneak attacks by Zealots once he expands there. And it's possible we might be seeing one of the few Protoss versus Protoss games, as it's very difficult to say. Seashells by the seashore. But one of the few Protoss versus Protoss games where both sides get an expansion. Huk is thinking about expansion, knows that there is a little bit of violence there, so he's going to hide his probe, or not a little bit of violence, a little bit of a violent potential right there, I suppose. Knows that he might get attacked by KiwiKaki, so he wants to be very careful with his expansion. This map, these games always differ very much, walk a tight line between victory and defeat, so it's always important to be very careful under these circumstances. And able to blink up, Huk, nice, able to not even take a single hit there, able to dodge those shots with the blink. And it looks like those stalkers are going to move forward though. This is not a good situation to engage in though. This is a good concave for Huk, and Huk realizes that, he backs off. He has not started an expansion. He is sending a probe. Oh, actually, he's sending a ninja probe up to just double check to make sure there's no expansion there. Does see no expansion and feels a little bit safer about that, which wants to make sure that KiwiKaki is not taking sort of advantage over the kind of soft contain that he has. And this is a very large force right now. Actually, does have a 16 supply lead, is very big, but Huk is placing a pylon inside of his base. KiwiKaki does not see the probe there. And wow, that could lead to a lot of damage there. Meanwhile, able to take out one stalker there for Oh, look at that though. 4 Zealots coming in. Able to take out one of Huck's Stalkers, and now KiwiKaki sees it. Is he going to bounce home? He is starting to move home now. Warping Zealots in at home. Nice in that little narrow concave where I feel like the 300 Spartan. That narrow concave where numbers no longer matter. But yeah, it is in fact the 300 Spartans. Instead of this 300 Spartans, it's actually the 3 Zealots. KiwiKaki's army is moving all the way back though, but that ruins his advantage there. It does not ruin his supply advantage though, as Huck is losing all of those Zealots at basically the cost of none of KiwiKaki's units. Meanwhile, Huck is moving up here, able to press his advantage, trying to see if he can move in and deal a little bit of damage while KiwiKaki's army is out of position. In fact, he is able to snipe the pylon here and do kind of a reverse contain. But it looks like KiwiKaki's force is able to stream out. Hux is able to blink away successfully, however, and move on out of there. KiwiKaki is still supply blocked, but Huck's expansion is going down. Looks like he's going to try to utilize this time very intelligently. However, there's a large and mean force coming down from KiwiKaki. And remember that KiwiKaki does have a supply lead. However, he is supply blocked, and that pylon is not going to be, well, it is going to be enough to unsupply block him, but not to be able to use all of his gateways. Also, Huck is going for a Templar archive, so he is going to be transitioning to Archons. I think it's because he has so much extra gas at this point. He wants to be able to utilize that extra gas on Stalkers. I think his mineral count is also getting low. Not too super low, but it is getting pretty low. So he's going to want to try to utilize his utilize that gas as much as possible. Also, Archons tank a lot of shots from... Ooh, I'm going to hold that thought. They take a lot of shots from Stalkers, rather. Looks like KiwiKaki is afraid to go in that narrow corridor in order to be able to fight here. 2 Immortals, though. Is that... no, wait, is that 3 Immortals? 3 Immortals are going to be very effective against these Stalkers as long as he makes sure that he's not focusing, you know, against the Archons or anything like that with the Immortals, as they're not really designed to do that. The expansion is up now. It is finished. The probes have been transferred, so Huck is at... actually, the probes are not mining, because Huck slightly misclicked there, apparently. Now they're mining, so KiwiKaki does have a little bit of a time delay. He wants to make sure to get this battle off as much as possible, and he is going to start warping in his units and probably moving in for the kill. He does get a good view of the expansion and Huck's army, and looks like he's going to be moving in. He wants the Zealots to be up front, however, so he's going to want to micro the Zealots up front. The Archons, though, are tanking a lot of the shots from the Immortals, exactly what I said didn't want to happen. And actually, the Immortals are not firing at any of the Stalkers right now. They are taking out the Immortals relatively quickly, and now the Immortals are starting to fire against the Stalkers, dealing a lot of damage there. And it looks like KiwiKaki is actually dealing a lot of damage to Huck's forces, and actually Huck's going to have to GG out of this game. Nice shot from KiwiKaki. Huck just got a little too aggressive there with that expansion. He already had the supply deficit. Maybe he thought he needed to take a risk, but it proved not fruitful. It was not a good decision, and he ended up getting taken out there. Wow, nice job from KiwiKaki, able to take game 2. So, this is PGL Milkcraft, and we're going to be moving on to game number 3 between EGHuk and RGN, rather, KiwiKaki. This is PGL Milkcraft, signing out.